the 5 Marc Bolan and T-Rex albums that I love. I remember seeing T-Rex the first time they appeared on Top of the Pops. I wasn't paying much attention and I thought it was Donovan. And I wasn't particularly interested because Donovan was so 1960s and this was the 70s. However, a friend of mine bought the single and came round next day and played it, and we absolutely fell in love with it. We loved the actual song and we loved the B-sides. We loved, one of them was Is It Love, which is on their first album, and the other was their version of Summertime Blues. So it was with great anticipation that I looked forward to their next single, Hot Love, and I bought it as soon as it came out. And I played that quite a lot, and the 2 B-sides. So we now had 2 T-Rex A-sides and 4 B-sides. And we started to look for more stuff, and we found this album called The Best of T-Rex. Now this contained the old Tyrannosaurus Rex songs. Now I'm pretty certain I knew who Tyrannosaurus Rex were, and when they became T-Rex I probably knew that it was the same band. However, it was quite a different sound. But this album has some of the electric Tyrannosaurus Rex songs, so it sort of is a bit like T-Rex. It's got this great track called King of the Rumbling Spires on it. It also has at least one track I still can't find on any other album. So I just had to have this when it came out, when I found it on CD. So we also managed to find somebody who lent us a copy of the first T-Rex album. And I absolutely loved that album. I loved the sound of it. I loved the fact that it had 2 of the Mothers of Invention on the song Seagull Woman, which was a song I loved. I also loved the song The Wizard, which was this strange, almost prog-like epic with an orchestra that went all over the place. And it had the song Is It Love, which I knew from the B-side of Ride a White Swan, which is simplicity itself. It has about 2 lines in it. I think it goes, is it love, and we're going to rock with love. It must have inspired the Ramones. And it has this very long version of his song, The 1 Inch Rock, which has this sort of scat doo-wop intro. So I was really into T-Rex by then. And then we got Get It On. Now Get It On was just like the greatest thing I'd ever heard. This was my music. This was music that was made for me. Back now I can analyse the reverb and the production, because a lot of this has to go to Tony Visconti and his orchestrations. However, Get It On had 3 songs on the other side, and we just were looking forward to there being an album. And then just before the album came out, we started to hear Jeepster, and Jeepster I think is just an absolute masterpiece. But the trouble with these songs is when you're looking at how to rank the albums, is a lot of their best songs and most of their B-sides were not on the albums, which makes it quite hard to rank the albums. And I think it was in the 90s, I bought this compilation album. And I think this was probably before I bought any of the original albums, because this basically has everything you'd want to hear. It's got some of the early Tyrannosaurus Rex songs, like Deborah. It's got all the singles, and it's got some of their best tunes on it. And when the CDs first came out, a lot of this wouldn't have been on the CDs. So when we were looking back on his previous catalogue, I managed to hear all the first 4 albums. But I would say my number 5 in this list would be the 4th Tyrannosaurus Rex album, A Beard of Stars. And this is sort of like the first T-Rex album. It's the first one to have Mickey Finn on congas, as opposed to the previous percussionist who was Steve Peregrine Took. And it's got a lot of electric guitar on it. And there's something about Marc Bolan's electric guitar playing that is absolutely distinctive. His note choices are like nobody else's. And his tone, his phrasing, and the guitar parts on this album are similar. They're the kind of thing you hear on all the albums going forward. And I just think it's unusual for someone to pretty much come out of the starting gates with such a distinctive original sound. The number 4 album would be the first T-Rex album. And this, it hasn't got drums on it again, it's still got Mickey Finn's congas, and it's got Howard Kaylan and Mark Volman, as I said, from the Mothers on Seagull Woman, which is probably my favourite track. It's also got a song called Beltane Walk, which I later realised he'd stolen the riff from the John Mayall Beano album, and of course John Mayall was copying it from somebody else. So he has used that riff or riffs like that a lot on all the other albums. But, you know, they're probably there for the taking. So this would be my number 4. Now, after Get It On, and when I heard the Electric Warrior album, the next single was Telegram Sam. And I was disappointed. I'd waited with anticipation for Telegram Sam, and when it came out it just seemed to be more of the same. So I stopped being a T-Rex fan. I was still interested, I still listened to their songs on the radio, still thought they were quite good. But they weren't my band anymore. Now, my interest in them might have gone on for a bit longer had the next single been Metal Guru, which I just absolutely love. So I didn't really collect any T-Rex until I think I got a compilation, either album or a cassette in the 90s, and I can remember listening to it and hearing Teenage Dream, which is just absolutely bizarre. I mean, it had been on the radio and the television back when it was a hit or a minor hit, but when you really listen to it, it is just it's just incredible. It's quite funny. The mix is probably one of those mad cocaine decisions that apparently Marc Bolan made, but it sort of represents the later stuff. It's either too much of the same, or he's going off into really weird directions. So, but I would say my number 3 album is Tanks. Now, as I said, the top 3 albums are going to be hard to rank because the original albums didn't have any of the singles on or the B-sides. And this album is really boosted by the fact that it's got Solid Gold, Easy Action, 20th Century Boy and Children of the Revolution. But the tracks on it are good. I've only fairly recently listened to this as an album. I love the last song, Left Hand Luke, which is like an elaborate blues song. So this would be my number 3. My number 2 would have to be The Slider, because it's good. There are a lot of people think that this is the number 1, but just the fact that I was there at the time and I loved the album before it, and I was by the time this came out I was probably listening to Led Zeppelin or something else. So this is a good album. I've got this expanded version. It's got Thunderwing on it, which was a B-side. It's one of my favourite T-Rex songs, and it's got some very good stuff on it. However, my number one would have to be Electric Warrior. I waited for this to come out, and when it came out it did not disappoint. It has got some fantastic songs: Mambo Sun, Life's a Gas, Cosmic Dancer, and of course Get It On and Jeepster. And this CD has got Hot Love, and it's got the B-sides to Hot Love and Get It On. So this really has to be my number one favourite T-Rex album, of the 5 that I love the most. Electric Warrior.